Welcome back to my channel. I revised this channel quite a bit since I've been on the platform trying to figure out what lane I want to be in regard to content creation. Nonetheless, I'm back in the original niche that I started with, but I don't want to also get trapped in that niche, if that make any kind of sense, because I don't want to just stay in a box or niche of budget and finance because I do have a life outside of budget and finance, if that make any kind of sense. So along the duration of this journey, I kind of want to take you with me in a vlog style form of content to kind of take you throughout my day or my week and show you how my bills or expenses correlate with my life, if that make any kind of sense. So, in order for me to show you what the overview for July is going to be, I need to go back to the overview of June. So, as you can see here, we have a close of $2,000, right? I've also created a four-wall key chart to keep me structured throughout the budget, with me then incorporating a level of discipline over the duration of the month of July to create balance throughout my financial journey. All right. Which is why June was closed out with $2,000, because I then needed to roll that over in the form of savings to the month of July. So we're going to add the 2,000 here to give us the leverage needed to avoid a possible financial collapse from occurring over the duration of this time. All right. From there, I am going to add wall one, or rent, in the amount of $1,500. All right. Moving along, I have a business expense in the amount of $3.19. I then am going to follow that with a no spin here, another no spin, i.e. that discipline that I'm incorporating throughout the month, because I want to close on the 5th with, let's just say, $1,000. In order for me to do that, let's also add another rim or element and say, since this week is kind of short, I don't intend to generate a lot of funding during this time. So let's backdate to our savings of $2,000. So I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to insert 2,000 minus 1,500 for the rent, minus a $3.19 business expense. That is then going to leave me with the remaining sum of $496.81, which I'll then roll over like we did coming into the month of July as a form of savings. Subtract that from the $1,000 that I want to secure for the close of the 5th to give me clarity in regard to what it is I need to generate, since this is such a short week, i.e., I'll possibly go to work part time during this time period. So, therefore, leaving me with the remaining sum of 503.19, which is what I then would need to further generate to secure $1,000 as a close. All right. From there, I have an internet expense at $60, an Apple expense. What is that? A notification? I have an Apple expense for $19.96. And I just combine all of my Apple expenses to avoid the scatter throughout the month so I can have a clearer visual in regard to what's going on. I don't like a cluttered calendar because I have so many things going on. I feel like I don't want to add those personal things inside of the budget because I prefer to view it from a more business view, if that makes sense. I only want to see throughout this calendar what's coming in, i.e., my income, and what's going out, i.e., my expenses. I don't want to see nothing else on this calendar, right? Because if we want to be technical, personal should have never been introduced as a term in front of finance because what I learned throughout my financial journey is that it's nothing personal finance, it's just business. And I feel like that's why a lot of people screw up the budget on a frequent basis because it's unfortunate, but that personal term really have people mismanaging money over the duration of their financial journey or over the course of their financial journey because they taking everything personal. And of course, our employers are not paying us a livable wage, so to speak. But if we incorporate things that already exist, i.e., just doing a quick little Google search, excuse me, in regards to, let's say, the standard deduction amounts for 2026. If I wanted to learn how to live within my means, if this hurry up and load, then I would just refer to the standard deduction amounts listed here to stay within a framework of what that theoretical means guideline would look like for me. So let's just say I'm considered head of household. As you can see, the deduction amount is $24,150. If I then divide that by 12 months, I would theoretically have a budget of $2,012.50 to further allocate towards, let's just say, housing and utility costs only. I would automatically understand that, hey, not only is that considered living within my means according to the standard deduction amounts via head of household, I then have more clarity in regards to how to further distribute funds over the duration of my financial journey using these pieces of information as guides to further navigate from, if that make any kind of sense. I don't want to take y'all over the place. So I'm going to close this and get back to the budget. Just wanted to give you a little bit of clarity in regards to where I'm now on my journey. All right. From there, we have a Verizon expense at $154.17. And that would include, I have two iPhone 17s as well as a tablet, right? So that covers those three devices. An extension to me practicing how to utilize every bill or expense throughout the budget from a business perspective rather than personal. Because I use these devices, which I'm on one right now recording this content, as well as I'm on my desktop computer. I have an Apple desktop computer that in which I'm filming from as well. And I'm multitasking, watching a movie on my tablet right now, but that's neither here nor there. But from there, well, it actually is not because Speaking of the next expense, Netflix, I'm actually watching, what is this called? Gone Girl on Netflix. So, hey, I'm utilizing all of the things that are listed throughout this budget. Because if not, that is going to give me an indication that I might need to eliminate certain expenses throughout my budget because it's a waste of money. It's a waste, and I need to eliminate it quickly. From there, I am going to add wall 2 utilities. So utilities at 130. And I know you're probably like, wait a minute, why do it look like your utilities is considered a fixated cost? Because I made it that way in regard to a little detective work being done in regard to my utility costs over the duration of, let's just say, the previous year. So, what I like to do is gather the data, rearrange it from least to greatest so that I can see the low and high points and where the average would be if I took all of these amounts divided by 12. Then, as you can see, the previous year, my average monthly rate was $97.30, right? So, what I like to do from there is add about 33%, roughly 33%, as an extended buffer to avoid a possible financial collapse from occurring with this type of expense, if that make any kind of sense. From there, I have a no spend day. And then let's just say I want to close on a 12th with $1,250. All right. In order for me to do that, I need to backdate to the close on the 5th to determine what I'll then need to focus on generating as extended funding to add to the savings to ensure that I secure this close. So I'm going to take $1,000, subtract 60, 1996, 154.17, 1999 minus 130. That is going to leave me with a remaining sum of $615.88. I'm then going to subtract what I want to close with, the $1,250, to determine what new funding needs to be generated during the week of the 5th, which will be $634.12 in order for me to close with $1,250. All right, moving from there, I want to add wall 3 debt at $756.00. But I want to break that debt back into its original form, with debt 1 being $660.00. And by the way, this is the only form of debt that I have here with interest attached to it. All right. From there, we have debt 2 at $53. And last but not least, debt 3 at $43. All right. From there, we have a gym membership at $20.03, which I don't use. I need to become more disciplined, especially when it comes to this expense, because it doesn't matter what occurs throughout my financial journey. This is one expense that I will never get rid of unless I just so happen to unlock a varied range of new streams of revenue that then allows for me to construct a private home based gym so that I then will eliminate this expense. Until then, health is a majorly priority, and it doesn't matter if I'm consistent the way that I should be or not. I know eventually seeing this expense listed throughout my budget is going to then kind of subliminally force me to develop the habit and discipline needed to actually yield the results from this expense, if that make any kind of sense. So I would always keep that in my budget. From there, I have a no spend. And speaking of going back to the gym membership, I also have an Apple Watch. And it's like if I'm going to be investing in these extended pieces of tech, then I need to be utilizing them, or it's considered a waste of funding that needs to be reallocated somewhere else, right? We don't want to practice, I don't even want to call it wasting money, but not being as wise with our money as we should be, understanding that it's a possibility that we just buying stuff because it's considered a trend, not necessarily a want or a fashion statement, um, extended form of financial status, if that make any kind of sense. I don't ever want to practice spending money or investing money in things that just don't make logical sense in regard to the life that I'm currently living on the income that I currently have, if that make any kind of sense. From there, I want to add another no spend. And let's say I want to close on a 19th with $1,250, right? I then again have to go back to the close on a 12th to determine what additional funding I may need to properly secure the close on the 19th of $1,250. So I want to put $1,250 in my calculator here, subtract the 660, minus the 53, minus the 43, minus the 2003. That is going to leave me with the remaining sum of $473.97. I then want to subtract the 1250. That means I'm going to have to generate $776.03 to further secure the close of 1250 on the 19th. All right. From there, I am going to add the final wall 4 insurance at 365.66. So we have insurance at 365.66. And then we have a Spotify expense because I need my music when I'm at the gym, whenever I go. And I also prefer to have my music while I'm driving, if I decide to go on a nature walk, etc., etc. Television and music is my extended forms of entertainment, because otherwise I would live a pretty boring and mundane life, and I need some entertainment, right? Or I prefer some. And I want to incorporate more content creation as a form of entertainment for me, since I don't do nothing but go to work and come home, i.e., which is why I need to go to the gym more, since I am paying for that expense. The gym is not a far distance from my location, so it's really no excuse. I just sometime after work, I really don't be feeling like doing nothing, and that's a problem. I actually wish the gym was open a little bit later because when I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I don't, it may take me a minute to go back to sleep. So with that window being open, I would prefer then to use that time to go to the gym and be productive. But unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. So I gotta go back to sleep and just wait until my shift start and then start my day with work rather than working out. And I don't like that schedule. I would prefer to work out first and then go to work. But that's neither here nor there. And then I want to close on a 26. I want to close on a 26 with, let's say, $1,500. In order for me to do that, I need to go back to the close on the 19th. $1,250. Subtract the insurance at $365.66 minus the Spotify at $12.99. That then equates to $871.31 as a rollover saving. So I'll then subtract that from the $1,500 close. That means I need to generate $628.65 additional funding over the course of that week for me to close at the 1,500. From there, I'm going to add no spends to close out this week. Again, because this calendar, I just want to see what's coming in and what's going out in regard to, if I was viewing this from a business perspective, I don't want to see nothing personal on this overview, right? So let's just back it up a little bit to debt one on the 13th at 660. If I'm trying to shift my brain to go from personal to business, I would look at this vehicle as being a business expense. This is a company car, right? I don't care to look at it like, oh, it's personal. Like, no. If it was personal, I tell you right now, I would have never invested in a vehicle had it not been for business, if that makes sense. It's no reason. I would have gladly used public transportation or whatever extended means of transportation, such as Uber, whatever the case may be, rideshare company wise. It just wouldn't have made no sense to me with my lifestyle and how often I then need to utilize the vehicle. So obviously, that part you have to further analyze in regard to your actual lifestyle and what actually moves you from a operation standpoint for you to be able to take care of whatever business needed to secure your cost of living expenses, if that made any kind of logical sense. But from there, I want to close with $2,000. In order for me to do that, since we had a no spend week here, that meant I needed to generate an additional $500 in funding to close at 2,000. And as you can see, then that concludes my July budget overview. So in the next video, I am going to show you how I would then transfer this information in this overview throughout a spreadsheet to close out week one. All right. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.